I used to think ambition was about saying yes to everything, every opportunity, every single extra project, every gold star, right? But until I thought all this until the yeses really made me rethink everything, my career, and really what ambition looked like. Welcome to Unearth with Shelly Hughes podcast. I am Shelly Hughes. In this podcast, we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of building a passionate, profitable brand. We talk about the wins, the losses, and especially the lessons learned about what it takes to build a business of your dreams. And so I want to set the tone with kind of the collapse moment. Talked about this a little bit in a previous episode, but I was in a conference room. I had my dream job. I was leading a presentation at this dream ad agency that it was all I wanted to do. I was a leader of this. I was really young in my first job out of college, and I was leading my group in this presentation for a campaign, and I softly took credit for coming up with the idea. And I did. It was my idea, right? But I softly, as I was presenting, took credit for coming up with the idea. And later on, the COO was my main boss, and she pulled me aside and she said, "Shelly, when you took credit for that project, you should have looked at the faces. You should have seen the faces of your team." And it's funny how one sentence kind of punches you in the face, right? And you realize that you're kind of becoming someone that you don't want to be. And I feel like in the pursuit of making it, right, it kind of made me lose myself, especially because I was in an environment that was not suitable for me, not suitable for really many people. The ad agency environment is something, if you've never experienced it, something crazy. And I really need to find my way back. So I guess let's go into the overachiever spiral, if you may. I want to paint the picture early. In college, I took every single leadership position. One summer, I did 3 different internships in a single summer. It was nonstop ambition, chasing credentials, getting on every single freaking honor society, which why is there honor societies? They're so dumb. They just make you pay tuition, you do the ceremony, and no one thinks about it ever again. Did you know I was probably in like 3 different honor societies? Does anyone ask me about them? No. No, they don't. And at that time, I really thought hustle equaled worth, which honestly, I still think it does, right? It's not just about, work hard, play hard, right? And I got in a fight with a friend of mine about this the other day where I was like, hey, you got to work hard, play hard. He's like, no, man, you got to do both. I was like, damn it. Okay, fine. But at that time, when I got the ad agency job, it felt like a prize, right? Everyone wanted to work there, right? So you got paid crap, number one. You worked all hours of the night, number two. But there was also so much emotional manipulation that it was just there was so much competitiveness. Leadership would say one thing and then, kind of talk behind your back. It was very confusing, especially for someone just getting out of college. You're trying to find your space in the world. You think you're doing the right thing. And then all of a sudden, there's this like emotional manipulation that you've never experienced in your life. And that's when I started to realize that there's a difference between being driven and having this kind of North Star of where you wanted to end up, and then giving yourself that grace to change that vision just because what you thought was your vision was actually draining you. And, I was failing at work. I was doing a really good job, but I never felt like I was doing a great job at work. And maybe that was the feedback I was getting. Maybe it was just me not being able to keep up. And why was I tired when I'm working till 10 o'clock at night? But it was definitely, it was a place that rewarded burnout. I mean, I remember the person right above me, I would probably see her cry from a breakdown once every 2 weeks, right? Just completely breaking down, stressed out. And I would see that. I'm like, that's not exactly what I want my future to look like. And so, so I left that position just because I realized it wasn't meant for me. And honestly, I couldn't keep up with it. And it was, I talked to the COO and she's like, hey, is this really the position for you? Do you think so? And I agreed with her. I'm like, look, I don't think this is for me. Because she definitely saw that I was not into it anymore. So I didn't have a plan. I thought I had this vision of what I wanted my life to look like. I always want to be an entrepreneur, but I thought that was going to be way down the line. So I had this vision of what I thought post-grad was going to look like. And all of a sudden, that was not the case anymore. And so my instinct, which is healthy or not, was to just go. So I booked a plane ticket to New Zealand for about a week after that. On that trip, I spent all my savings. I packed a backpack and I left alone. Everyone was working, right? So no one could travel for a month and a half. And I didn't go to find myself, right? I knew who I was, but I don't know. I guess I was kind of ashamed at that time of what I did and what I didn't do and the choices I made. And I guess, I don't know, I wanted to prove I wasn't a failure. I don't really know why I went, but I just said, this is maybe one time in my life where I can really travel. And I loved traveling back then. I still do, but I love traveling. And I'm like, hey, I'm between jobs right now. Might as well go travel. So, and it wasn't glamorous, right? It was raw, it was uncomfortable. Staying in hostels with people you don't know is deeply human. And it was so crazy. I carried so much weight in that stupid backpack, right? I guess it's very, poetic. It's both emotional and literal weight I carried that entire time. So I don't really know why I went, but I just remember that there was a moment where I kind of realized, like, I'm strong, I'm capable, I'm okay. And when you travel alone, like, you have to do everything alone. You have to eat lunch alone. You meet people at hostels and stuff, but you eat lunch alone. You do excursions alone. You have to plan everything. You have to pay everything by yourself. But everything you do, you can do on your time. And I've never been by myself before then. I either lived in big houses on campus, with a bunch of my friends, or I lived at home, or I was always trying to meet up with friends after school. At school, you're with friends all the time. And so I think a lot of us we're not used to being alone. And I think I just wanted to challenge myself going on this trip to say, like, I I could do something that I was uncomfortable with. And I remember one day I was in New Zealand. I was out in like the Sulphur Springs, this excursion, and I spent the entire day alone. And I didn't have like Wi-Fi there out and about. I didn't have obviously like data. So I spent the entire day just like by myself. I think my mom got me a selfie stick by myself, taking pictures, doing the bus route myself, getting lunch all by myself, not scrolling on, my phone. And I think it was that day where I think I found this new type of confidence. And what I realized was it wasn't performative confidence, right? Because I think that's what I was dealing with in the past. I was dealing with this, like, I had to act confident, right? I had to seem better and bigger than I was. It was this, like, what I realized that day, I built this kind of like quiet self-trust, if you would say. And I realized that, if I can sit alone and I can feel content and I can be so resourceful and I can carry this huge backpack on my back for a month and a half, it made me feel so good because I felt physically strong. I felt physically healthy, but I started to become a little bit more mentally strong. And I think coming back from that trip, obviously I had to find a job, right? And do all the things. The trip wasn't about reinventing myself, right? It was about kind of like remembering myself. I had to stop kind of over explaining my value and start living it. Because everyone I met on that trip, when I say like they were living in the moment, they were literally living in the moment. We weren't thinking about what we were going to have for dinner. We weren't thinking about what we were doing that next day. When you travel like that, you travel by bus, you kind of spend day to day like, okay, like I'm about to go to bed. Do I want to stay in this town one more day or should I catch the bus tomorrow morning? And so you kind of build out this like true confidence that, again, you don't have to over explain your value, you just kind of live it. And I built a career, I built a company really rooted in that clarity and not that chaos. And so, like, how does that change my leadership style today? I mean, one, I no longer tolerate fake confidence. And what I mean by that, for example, I have, when I feel like people are showing off or they're talking about themselves too much or whatever, I don't have time for it anymore. Same thing. I've banned the word imposter syndrome from the company. Not because I don't believe imposter syndrome exists. Like, I guess sure it exists, but what it has turned into, it's allowed especially this younger generation to use it as an excuse to be paralyzed and to not do anything, right? I'm feeling imposter syndrome, so I don't want to do that risky thing. And that's something that I don't have patience for. And I expect my team to be self-aware. I don't expect people around me to be self-absorbed. And there's a huge difference there. I know, like, there's this book called Bad Therapy. I thought it was a really interesting book, but we've built this culture obsessed about me, 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 me. And when leadership is really about us and we and the team. And if you keep thinking and harping about yourself and your own problems and where you're going and what you're thinking, it kind of helps you dwell on those exact problems instead of just thinking about other people for a chance. And I truly believe that true confidence isn't loud, it's really steady. And that's what I try to teach the people around me, and not just teach them, but like, some people can't change. Some people have to get fired or get a really strong talking to or get really embarrassed to learn this. So if you've ever felt like you're lost inside your own ambition, just step away. Go somewhere that you can't fake confidence, right? Sit alone, eat the meal, miss the bus, go and be humbled, right? That's why I do judo most 4 out of the 7 days a week, because I get humbled every single day. I suck at judo. I suck at it, but I go because there's no way to fake confidence there. You are humbled every single moment. And I think the more you can do things like that, the more you're just going to be able to live in that steady confidence. So I really appreciate your time today. Thank you for listening. This was kind of a weird one, something I've been thinking about and journaling about. But if you like this episode, please give me a thumbs up. Give us a follow. Most people that are listening are not following, so please give us a follow. And I promise to really work really hard and give you some amazing content. But I will talk to you next week.